Hi, everyone. My name is Tony, and I run a tools development studio called Pixel Crushers. We make tools such as the dialogue system for Unity, and I also make indie games.
Awesome. And again, I'm Robert, and Tony and I are chairs, co-chairs, whatever, of the IGDA Indies SIG. And the IGDA, if you don't know, is the Independent Game Developers, not independent, I always say that too, International Game Developers Association. So, there's the little ping for that. If you're not a member, go check it out, igda.org. Uh, then we have Carlos. Carlos is one of our moderators here. He's been very helpful. So why don't you say hi, Carlos?
Hey, good afternoon. My name's Carlos Ortiz, and I am a software developer and an indie developer from Florida with Towering Stairway, and yeah, excited to get a discussion rolling here.
Right on. So James, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. I during the day I work as a software engineer. Been doing that for close to about 10 years. And about 4 years ago, I started getting into doing game jams. And in the last 3 years, I decided I wanted to actually, try to write a full-on commercial game. And me and one other person so far have been working on that for a couple of years now. And so that's the goal, is to hopefully start doing this full time down the road.
Fantastic. Wow. Can you want to tell us a little bit about the game you're working on or not? It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get a quick rundown. It's like a 3D top-down kind of twin stick shooter, mech-based game. So your character's playing as like a mech, but think like in terms of the camera angle, Diablo kind of camera angle like that. So that's kind of the gist of it. And we're hoping to get 4 to 5 hours out of the gameplay for that. It's challenging just getting that much time right now.
Awesome. So you say we. Do you have other people on your team?
Yeah, right now it's myself. I do all the programming, and I try to do the other things like writing and level design. Um, and the other person is 3D modeling, so he does a lot of the 3D all the 3D modeling pretty much for the game.
Fantastic. I think everybody here is probably working on some game. I know the game that I'm working on is, at least at this time, called Mars Core. It's a VR game where you establish and manage a colony on Mars. And there also is going to be some survival elements, seeing that you have to keep things going or you could die. So that's a project that I've been working on. Carlos or Tony, did you want to share anything about something you're currently working on?
Yeah, sure. I am, and I have my hands in probably way too many projects. But I'll talk about the one that is our first core studio commercial release, which is a narrative psychological horror game that is a subversion of the pet sim genre. So we are working on a
Pet
game titled
Sim?
Pet Sim genre, correct. I like
Okay.
to describe it as Nintendogs spirals into psychological dread, and it is a it's been a fun title to work on, and yeah, we're excited to start showing people.
So is it going to become a Pet Sim? CEM?
SIM
No, I'm
simulator.
playing with words here. If it was
Yeah. Oh,
CEM, like Pet Cemetery.
yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, for sure.
And
Go ahead. And James, you said something. I was trying to. Oh darn it! What kind of game did you say? Did you characterize yours as? What genre?
Oh yeah, it's like a top-down twin-stick shooter with some storyline.
Right, right. That's what it was. Top down. It sounded like you said. Anyway, I can't come to me. Something completely different. So, hey, now we have been joined by Michael.
yep,
Michael, we're just saying hi to everybody.
yeah,
You want
I
to say
have a
hi?
couple people that are wanting to join who aren't in the Discord yet, so it might have somebody that is trying to join.
Fantastic. Okay.
Can one of the mods invite them in?
Yeah. What do you mean by trying to join? Me like, trying
Oh,
to join the server?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
just watch for it. A couple people might be trying to join.
Okay. So we need to be watching for people showing up that have to be approved.
Yes.
Okay. Who's going to do that?
It's a couple students that I work with, so.
Okay. So Michael, could you keep your eye on that? Do you know how to do that?
Where is it? Which channel do I need to watch?
Left-hand side. There's a members section. It should pop up if someone tries to join.
Okay.
I can keep an eye on it as well.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah. It's in this, Michael, it's in the server settings.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, and that's cool. And in fact,
Yeah.
we used to do this on what was called an auditorium, and that would only allow 5 people to speak at a time. And by popular demand and a good suggestion from Tony, we've switched it to a standard voice channel, which means we could end up with more than 5 people all talking at once. Yay! So
Yeah,
that's
in
what you
fact,
call.
I'll jump in and talk. I first have a question for James. Did you mention the name of your game?
I didn't. The name is Extrarius. We don't actually have a Steam page up yet. I think we're still working on a kind of vertical slice so that we can make a good trailer out of that. But hopefully soon. Hopefully this year.
That's okay.
Sure, no.
I don't have a Steam page up for my game either, and I'm showing it at a show on this Saturday.
Oh, wow.
It's called Realms Below, and it's a grid-based dungeon crawler.
All right. That's awesome. Well, it's interesting because I as you hear different people, we've got, like you had mentioned, James, you've been working on this, I believe you said, for a couple of years. I know that that's definitely true of the game I've been working on. And it's certainly not the only thing I'm working on. And I think that's why it tends to take a couple of years. So I know that one of my goals is to at least try to find some way of creating shorter projects. But that's not the point of today's conversation. So the big question in today's conversation it's kind of a focus on audience, but also more of an intent question. So what I mean by that is, if you're going to do your standard market research and you decide you're going to make a game, one approach that you might take, and that you'd probably be encouraged to take if you were serious, was to define who your audience is. Okay, well, my audience is teen hardcore game players between 15 and 20, or something like that, right? And then you might go and find out, well, what kind of games are those guys playing? And maybe you find out, that right now they're all playing roguelike games. And so you say, okay, well, then I'm going to make a roguelike game because that's what people want to play. of course, the other side, the other approach is, hey, this is me. I want to make this great game about Mars because I love Mars and I'm a total space nut. And wouldn't it be fun if we could build a colony on Mars in VR? And so I go off and I start making that game. Of course, so I've kind of explained two ends, opposite ends of a spectrum. One is, well, I am going to find out what people want to play, and I'm going to make that game. And the other is, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but oh, I don't care, if anybody ever plays this game. I just want to make it. It's my passion project. So clearly there's a spectrum there. And that's what we're here to talk about today is which approach, well, I'm going to say which approach should you take? But I have to back off on the word should because I'm not going to don't want to lead to thinking that there's only one right way to do it. So at that point, what say you? Who would like to jump on that and talk about it?
I'll go ahead and jump in. So
Go for it.
I feel like it's not really a spectrum. I know it's a good way to phrase it for conversation here, but unless you're making a game just as a hobby to make a game, then these are just both two different things that you need to satisfy. You do need to make a game that you're excited to make, but you also need, if you want to turn commercial for the game, you need to make sure that it's something that players will want and will recognize that they want also.
Excellent. Excellent. Who else?
Yeah, I'll echo that, and provide some other thoughts. I'll say that ultimately if you want to make a marketable game and sell your game, well, it needs to be marketable first and foremost. In order to understand what's marketable, you have to understand the market. That being said, there's nothing wrong with making a game that you're passionate about just to make it, because I believe that that's how we get a lot of surprises in the industry that we get, right? Sometimes the market doesn't always tell you that X game's going to succeed or X game's going to fail. But I think it's a matter of setting your expectations appropriately for the game you decide to make. So if you choose to make your passion game, you can't necessarily expect it to perform well or even moderately if you haven't done the research that would suggest that it would perform at that level. And I think that's really important to understand. I think, at least maybe stereotypically, what I see is a lot of developers get into this thinking the first game I make is going to be a big hit and I'm going to make a bunch of money and it's going to be great. And then it fails and they didn't really set their expectations up right. And same with the passion game. It's like, oh, I loved making this and I loved it so much, but nobody played it. How could nobody appreciate it as much as I did? And that's just kind of it. Maybe the sad fact is it wasn't a very marketable game, or just didn't really hit the right audience, or there's plenty of things that could make a game fail. Probably way more than that would make it succeed. But yeah, ultimately I think it's about setting your expectations. I don't think one way is right, one way is wrong. Just make sure you understand that your expectations for the end result are reasonable for what you're doing.
Oh, I kind of disagree. So I feel like there is one right way, and you have to make something that you're passionate about. Otherwise, the game's not going to have any spark, and a game without any spark is not going to appeal to indie gamers.
That's a fair point. I mean, it's really true. That's the other important thing that I definitely missed and failed to hit on is, sure, make a game that you can market and is profitable, but if you don't like what you're making, then it probably won't do very well either way. That is extremely important. It is so important to enjoy what you're making, because like you guys have been saying, some of you have been working on your games for 1 year, 2 year, however long it is. There's a chance you might be working on your game for a lot longer than that. I mean, I think about Blueprints that just came out a year ago or so. 8 years in development, and an incredible game. I can only imagine you have to have an incredible amount of passion to stick with an idea for that long, and I'm so glad that they did because it's one of my favorite games of the last 10 years. But yeah, if you don't like what you're doing, you know, um, it's going to be tough either way.
So,
Well, let me interject a little quote that we've probably all heard. I'm probably not getting it exactly right, but it went something like this. We're not here to have fun. We're here to make money. Anybody know what I might be paraphrasing that from? I'm pretty sure it was perhaps, was it Bobby Kotick?
Bobby Kotick. Oh boy. Okay.
One of the head of EA, basically. I hope I'm saying
Activision.
this correctly.
Activision.
Activision Blizzard.
Activision,
Bobby
right. There you
Kotick.
go. Now, I know when this quote hit the game world, everybody was appalled. Oh my God, who is this guy? What do you mean we don't make games to have fun? Tony, you want to defend that point of view?
no, in fact, I'm of course not. But so I do want to say, if anyone here is not subscribed to Simon Carlos's newsletter, which is part of his Game Discover Co., then you definitely should sign up. Today's newsletter, today's newsletter was about how hobbyists are the indie devs who are disrupting the game industry more so than, of course, AAA that have to be very safe, or even more established indies. The example that he cites is a train simulator game made by one person, and it's doing very well on Steam. And it's these little passion projects that for indies seem to really break through. So yeah, maybe when you are a publicly traded company, sadly in this late stage capitalist world, your primary goal is to make money. But as indies, your primary goal is to make innovative games.
And that's a great
I would
point.
even say, yeah, I would even say it's not even to make innovative games necessarily. I'm sure for some people it certainly is, but it's to make something, right? I mean, just to make anything. I mean, for a lot of people getting into indie game development, for some of them it's their first game ever. Maybe some of them haven't even done game jams before. Some of them have never even don't even know how to do game development. They're all learning it in real time. I think that's a story for a lot of us. I think that's a common story that you're seeing more and more and more and more.
I think what a lot of new indie devs don't realize is that for their first game or first few games, they're just learning the technical skills to be able to recreate the games that they loved when they were growing up. So those first few games aren't going to have that spark, more likely than not. That's why you need to keep making games so that you get all of those out of the way and you can make something really unique and special.
Great. And let me jump in to say, and by the way, Michael, I would like to hear from you, but I am gonna, in a way, defend Bobby Kotick. You're right. He's running a huge or was, I don't know, that was a huge corporation with shareholders that that had to be pleased. So it's a completely different world, which was kind of make it funny when all the other game developers in the world, we were all so aghast about it, because that's not the world we live in as independent developers, is it? Now, what we have to keep in mind is sometimes we think that way. We think, well, the way to success is to become big, and this is my goal, is to become, another Activision. And I always say, you have to really question yourself on that, because and I've read lots of books from companies like that. And the one thing I can tell you is that once they receive the big money from their venture capitalist or whatever it is, suddenly the whole world changes, and they're not doing it for the love anymore, because they're not the ones that get to make that decision.
I have the perfect segue from this. A couple weeks ago I was in LA, and I was very fortunate and was able to meet one of my heroes. He is the ex-CEO of Blizzard, and his name is Mike Morhaime.
Yep.
And he is an incredibly kind man, extremely gracious, and listened to me ramble about how incredible he was and inspirational to me. And he gave me a piece of advice, and I will never forget it, and it sticks with me. It will stick with me. And I think it's just great advice. He looked at me and he told me, stay as small as you can for as long as you can.
Yeah.
And that is I think the indie spirit and in the indie story. It's not indies trying to build their companies up into the next Activision Blizzard, the next EA, what have you. It's a bunch of small groups of people making cool, fun games for people to play, and continuing to do that. And so I think that's a fun little tidbit to throw in there to kind of cap off that exploration.
I have a couple takes too. Also very cool that you met Mike. I have been playing quite a few Dreamhaven games lately. But yeah, to add to that point, Warren Spector said there's basically like 3 to 4 kind of stepping points where basically from a psychological perspective, as a team gets bigger, the brain has to compartmentalize more. It's something like 735 and then 200. But it's like you basically lose cohesion the bigger the team gets. And we see that. We see that with the AAA games, like where, especially with bigger games like RPGs, sometimes it's clear that different parts of the game were developed at very different times in development, and then put together in a mishmash.
So not to go too far off topic, but even below 7, I think there are a lot of concerns for indie devs. Salary, or probably for most people, paying yourself after the fact, because most people are doing this through their own savings as small indies. Salary is like most of the expense of developing a game. And if you go from 1 person to 2 people, in order to break even, your game needs to make twice as much money as if it was solo developed. If you have a team of 4, your game, to be as successful, needs to make 4 times as much money.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that you said twice as much, because if it's a big corporation, they're measuring success in terms of millions of sales. My son actually just got done working. He'd worked for, I think, 3 years or more for Meta. And from their point of view, they have things that were great, that we would all look at them as like, oh my God, that's so amazing, it's so successful. But once they did it, they threw it away because it had a few 100,000 people interested in it, and that didn't come anywhere near close to the benchmark they needed.
Right.
So I think one thing we've all agreed on then is we have to keep have a good understanding of, first of all, why are we doing this? Like, first of all, if I'm making a game, as you pointed out, Tony, just because I want to learn the skill, and so the first thing that comes to my mind is oh, this will be great. I'll make a game on whatever, and you don't do any consideration as far as whether it's going to be successful in the market. Your goal right then is just to learn the skills, and to make something and complete it. That in itself is saying something, that you actually started and completed a game. But then you also have to say, okay, if there's any part of your brain that says, oh, well, at some point in time, I'd like to actually make a living off. Now you've got to become part business person, because it's completely unrealistic, I would say, my opinion, to say you're going to make a living off of making games if you don't then learn how to strategize and make games that people will actually want to pay for and play.
Yeah. I personally have been through like a couple of like startup incubators, and so I have a little more than I know. Like, I know a lot of developers, and it's like kind of a question that I have, I guess. But to me, it feels like the industry has kind of been structured in a way, intentionally or not, that uh, the developers are oftentimes sheltered from the business decisions, and I think that that is probably one of the problems with, the last 3 years.
So I think as far as the very small indies go, the largest team we have here on the call is 2 people. So I don't think there's much sheltering in that regard. Robert does bring up a point. How do you make a game that you want to make and that people want to play? And I think those two things are kind of one and the same. Because if you're not making a game where at the end of the day you load up the game and you just want to keep playing it, if you're not making a game that you just can't stop playing, then other people aren't going to be interested in it either.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that point was brought up by a couple of people now. I believe, especially Carlos, or I think it was you, Carlos, if you don't have some passion for the thing you're making, how is anybody else going to fill that spark as well?
Right. It's certainly a lot less likely.
Go ahead.
It's certainly a lot less likely that they would, bare minimum, at best. And at worst, if you don't like it, yeah, why would anybody else like it, right? At a certain point, you gotta kind of do it for the love of the game, too. You gotta learn to enjoy the process of development rather than the end result.
Yep.
So I'll be a little frank about my own game, Realms Below, my current game, Realms Below, right now. And I was getting so in the weeds of implementing systems that I feel like I was losing vision of the pillars that I had set for the game. So it wasn't feeling as fun to me. And this week I've been focusing mostly on refining and rediscovering those pillars just to make sure that I really enjoy the game. And it's something that during the course of development, I think will kind of go in and out as you polish things or as you iterate on different systems. It may be more or less fun, but ultimately you have to find that point where you're addicted to your own game.
Great. And that's what I meant by and I understand there's always different ways to say it, but that's what I meant when I said spectrum. I think a good word here is balance. I think we're all going to find a time when, oh my God, this is just drudgery, but we have to get through that to get that thing done. But on the other hand, if it's something you're passionate about, then you kind of find the inner fire to get you through those difficult times. But I love the way you said it, Tony, that you kind of came to a realization, I've got to do something a little different now. And in a studio that had lots of people, you see, they would just farm that out to somebody else and let them do the grunt work. But we can't do that. So we have to always be aware, try to be aware of where we're at. And maybe at some point in time, we don't follow the project plan anymore. We say, okay, I got to change it up a little bit here. I'll come back to this later and do something that's a little bit more exciting right now, or whatever the plan looks like for all of us. So
I have a question for folks.
Go ahead.
How do you verify that you're making a game that players want, other than doing kind of vague internet research?
That's a good one. That's a good question.
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry, I didn't quite catch it.
Okay, the question is, how do you verify that you're making a game that players really want?
Yeah, once you start being worried about people playing your game, how do you decide that it's something that other people would like to play?
I have an answer, but I'll let someone else go first. Sorry.
No worries. For me, it's this is a really candid response. I kind of don't know, quite frankly. You hope more than likely. You do the research, of course. Like you look at like market trends. You see like for my game, it's a narrative psychological horror game. How are narrative psychological horror games doing? The demographic I'm targeting, are they still playing those games? And you look at the numbers, and the numbers say, yeah, people are playing this, but you don't actually know that your specific idea is the one they're going to want until you get it in front of them, and that's a whole nother battle that we don't need to touch on, and a whole nother topic. So really, for me, it's been the most insightful feedback has been basically just pitching the game to people and engaging their reaction, especially when they're horror fans, especially when that's the kind of game that they want. If they like start asking more questions about it, if they start, is there a Steam page up? That's the kind of insight that really tells me like, okay, we might be onto something here. Like this might actually be an idea that people want and are interested in, rather than just this ephemeral like maybe people want this. And I guess that's our process of testing the hypothesis is once we actually kind of test the idea, you can kind of see in some people their eyes light up and some people they don't. And when you have more people where their eyes light up when you tell them what their game idea is than don't, I feel like that's a pretty strong signal, so to speak, to use business terms, that maybe there's something here. And even then, who knows?
So you hit on, we'll call it a huge pillar that answers this question is play testing. Get people to play your game. And now the funny thing about that answer is then if you were to say, oh, let's go find out how people do that. And well, again, if you're Microsoft, that looks like setting up a huge studio just for playtesting and having hundreds of people play the game and having quality assurance people were taking notes. And and again, you often run into advice that's way out of the scope of what we can do as indie developers. And then you say, okay, I'll have all my friends and family play it. And they'll say, it's great, you know. But you're right. That is one of the pillars, finding a way to get people to play your game. I think that's very important.
It's actually gotten more challenging, like, in the last, I want to say, one, about the same time, in about the same time frame that we've seen all the layoffs, I've also seen a decline in willingness to playtest.
Oh, I
Huh.
disagree. So this weekend, I expect to get maybe 100 playtests of my game because I'm bringing
What?
it to a show in person.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does definitely depend on, like, if you're doing in-person or digital. I will agree there.
Yeah. Okay. Moment of truth. For people who are actively working on a game right now, uh, who has playtested their game with people other than friends and family?
I have.
I have not yet.
I have not. I have play tested the script, but not the game itself.
Hmm.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. I play tested the elevator pitch
Like,
in the sense that I talk to everybody about it, tell them what I'm doing, especially like at GDC. And, you know, I get a lot of positive feedback and that gives me some encouragement. But I realize that it doesn't really, hit the level of truth until you've farmed it out to some people to play.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's free
And
to
that's,
do. You don't need to be Microsoft. Heck, you can just take it to like a library or some local event on a laptop and have people play.
Yeah,
right.
I want to
Great
call out
idea.
one of our I want to call out one of our Discord members. Keith Jerky suggested they like to take their game to local game shops, like card shops, board game shops. And I
Wow.
thought that was just a tremendous idea
There
because
you
you get
go.
some video game adjacent people as well. You may not necessarily find your core fan base there, and you'll probably get some more honest feedback. And I think that's a really cool idea. So.
And I
Uh,
think it's very important that we're asking that we try the best we can to encourage people, to be honest. That we're not looking for a mutual admiration society.
yes. So the last game that I actually have released, like, shipped, not still in development, was around 2023. And it was an interesting learning experience from this point specifically because it playtested really well, but then once we put a price point on it, it just flopped.
Hmm.
And it was only $5. So it was like, okay.
And that's another good point. Is there is no magic bullet, right? There's no magic pill. There's no there. You could do all the market research in the world. Um, you could do all the play testing, and then what happens? Well, you don't have any way to market your game, and nobody even knows it exists. I mean, so many barriers that we have to overcome that if we just talked about barriers, we'd probably all quit.
Yeah. I mean, it
So,
was weird. We had, like, content creators making content and stuff, and then as soon as the price went on, it just stopped.
okay. Um, I was going to also jump in and say I use if I'm trying to do some research, I use some sort of AI agent to try to agent, probably the wrong word, chat, whatever, to try to help me facilitate what I'm looking for. And you can get some incredible information that way, as long as you understand one thing that I've noticed, and that's that any particular AI, that my impression is they become biased towards you, which
Yes.
means if you used I use Copilot, and it gets to know you, and it knows you want to succeed as a game developer, so it tends to bias the information it gives you in ways that it says, here's how you're going to be great. So you got to take it with a little bit of grain of salt.
Yes. Yeah, I often will like take what it gives me and test it in reality, and then put it back through, and that helps it be a little less, you know.
Well, in fact, one time I told Copilot, you're just telling me what you think I want to hear. I want you to be more critical than that. And it was able to give me a little bit better advice. So, yeah, it's kind of weird that I feel very strange even talking about a computer like that, but that's where we're at.
I'm going to jump on my soapbox again here and say that AI agents don't buy games. People buy games. So make sure you get those games in front of human playtesters as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Like for the current game I'm working on, I had people play testing it after 1 week of development. And that's how I knew that I could move forward after a week. If people weren't excited in the state that it was after a week, I would not have pursued it any further.
Yeah.
Right. Which then, glad you said that, brings up another pillar. Define your expectations and give yourself a certain time frame.
Yes.
Now, some of us have already admitted that we've worked with this for years, me included, without ever testing it with some outside game players. And maybe that's wrong. I'm not, I don't want to necessarily attach value, but at some point you should say, I'm going to work on it for this long, accomplish this much, and then see if people are even interested in it. If, again, that goes back to my saying that if you're telling yourself you want to make a living out of this, then you've got to get serious about finding out whether people like the game. That makes sense?
Yeah, I'd go so far as to say and I'm generalizing here, but if you don't feel confident showing your game to people, then it may be because something is missing out of that game, and perhaps you should shelve it and look at another idea that seems to have more spark. You can always go back to pieces of the game that you've been working on for years later, but you really, life is short. You got to work on something that you're excited about and that that other people are excited about.
And that was even brought up in a previous session we did. Shelve things. Learn how to shelve them and say, okay, I don't have to give it up, but I can put it on a shelf and come back to it later, maybe. Try something different. Hey, we haven't heard from you in a while, James. Give us your thoughts.
Well, I'm still working on publishing my first one, right? So I don't have a lot of actual experience doing that. But in terms of, we definitely on this project making mistakes as we go, learning a lot. It's the first one. Have we done proper market research? No. And, it kind of started off as this actually did start as making the game that I wanted because I love mech games and I grew up playing all the MechWarrior games. I wanted to do a first-person mech game, but for design reasons, design reasons, we decided, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do a first-person game, and we decided to go with a top-down approach. Now, I don't usually play top-down games. I like Diablo, so it's been, But for design reasons, like, well, if doing switching to top down is going to make it easier for us to get this first game through the door, then I want to do that. And my perspective is probably might even make you, grimace when I say it. But a lot of times you see the indies that you see a common pattern. The first one or two games are not too successful. Maybe that third game where they've really learned, that's where it takes off. So I'm like expecting to almost make nothing from this game. Of course, I will be completely happy if we do make money from it. And I know that sounds crazy because I'm still at a hobby level right now. Of course, if there's steps I can take to turn that around and make me feel more confident that it can be successful, then I've been doing that research and trying to learn as I go and seeing what we can do. But yeah, in playtesting specifically, we've had a couple friends playtest it. I enjoy playing the game, and I'm not usually in the top-down games, but we just have so far to go still. It's hard to say what it's going to look like at the end.
Well,
Thanks for that input. Yeah.
The fact that you enjoy playing the game is huge. And I'd encourage you to take Carlos's advice where he's talking about Keith Jerky and take it to a game shop, even like a shop that just sells cards like Magic and Pokemon, and have people play it. Just see what they think.
Yeah. I like that idea. I will say one other thing on that kind of scares me about, you'd mentioned, putting your game out there and being worried about the feedback. I know I'm kind of that person, so I've already told my other guy he's going to have to manage the comments because I'll get upset. But I see a lot of interesting indie games that get shared out there, and I think they look great and like blow what I have out of the water. But then I see a lot of negative comments responding to those, and it's kind of discouraging to me as well.
Yeah, like Hollow Knight. When the developers first showed like their initial footage years ago of Hollow Knight, everyone was like, "Oh, another platformer! It's going to fail." It's not always the case with especially internet comments.
Yes. The sad truth is everybody thinks everybody's a hater. And for some reason, there's this new mentality that's become worse and worse over the last 10 years, in my opinion, that people think that the only way they can act intelligent is to be negative. So you have to be really careful, especially if you're just posting it out there on Reddit. The Reddit people they hate everything. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but if you're showing if you're showing a game in person and you need to pry that gamepad out of their hands, that'll tell you.
Very good. Very good.
I'll add that this topic came up recently with a group of friends and I. This idea of context collapse. So context collapse is essentially it's when your content escapes your core audience and finds its way into circles that it was never really meant for. And it's like a really sad consequence of finding an audience. When you find an audience for the work that you do, inevitably the context will collapse, and you'll find people that find your work and they were never meant to find your work, and they just don't like it, or they feel the need to be mean or take it down. And I remember I got to a point, because I've been creating things for a very long time in general, not just video games, but I make music and have made music for a lot of my life.
Nice.
And
nice. Same here. So.
And I don't put it out to try to market it, really. It's just something I do for me. But I do put it out there, and putting yourself out there means making yourself vulnerable. And I found the other day, signed into one of my SoundCloud accounts and found that, oh my gosh, one of my songs has like 3,000 plays and has way more attention than I ever thought it would ever get. And it's just a cover that I made, for fun one day because I felt like it.
Nice. Yeah.
And it also came with hate comments. What a terrible cover. Oh my gosh, this is so bad. And then, of course, I get some nice people, too, who are like, I think this sounds pretty good. And there's a lot of likes and a lot of support, too. So the good always comes with the bad. And that's just the sad fact of it. but I remember it kind of exciting me in a weird way, not because I'm a sociopath and but because it was like, oh man, like something I made has broken out past the audience it was meant for, and that as an artist is really special. Because if you're doing this for the sheer hope that people will see it and understand what you're trying to do, that is extremely special. So it stinks, and and you definitely have to develop a thick skin. Um, but but man, it can be a good thing in a weird way when you see it. Not to defend, people being super extremely mean and rude online. I wish that was a part of our society we could just, stop in its tracks. But just a way that I like to reframe it personally.
That's great. Any final comments? I'm going to make one final comment, and then I'll let you all, because I do have to go pretty quickly today. I did some reading. I've been doing some reading on writing. That's good, reading on writing. And I ran across this great set of information on how to take what you're writing and give it to somebody that you want some excellent, honest feedback from. And I thought, this applies to video games. So I'm going to post this little checklist I came up with. Again, just to mention real quickly, that when we have these topics, we also put them in the topic of the month channel. So I'm going to post my my little checklist on that, so be looking for it. I think it's an excellent way, but what it basically boils down to is getting people to be able to look at what you're giving them, and you're kind of want to train them to give you some honest feedback on it. So, any other final comments from anybody else?
So I can. It's
Yeah,
kind of unrelated to that.
I will have something, but go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'll just give a quick little anecdote. When we were talking about finding the right people for your game, if you're, and this is related to marketing, but when you are setting up your marketing online using search terms or tags, for instance, Steam tags, uh, don't try to just get as broad an array of tags as possible. Instead, go as specific as possible.
Very good.
An example of not doing that is a few years ago, I made a game with another person that was an alien bartending game. The alien patrons were made like paper doll style out of mix and match, essentially animal parts, like bird noses, cat ears, to make the aliens. So when we added tags for the game, we just threw in as a tag furries. And we did not realize that like 90% of the traffic, even though it's not really a furry game, it's just that it had anthropomorphic patrons, we didn't realize that that would cause 90% of the traffic to come from furry lovers. And they came to the game and they were like, this is not at all what we're looking for. So we we actually totally mismarketed the game and lost an audience.
Nice. Good.
I love that story.
That's
so good. Yeah.
It's also funny because, like, I've actually known game devs that were furries. So their perspective was interesting.
Oh, here there's definitely a crossover, but I totally understand what you're saying, Tony. That would be a disaster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You think you found the right audience, and then it turns out actually it's a way more specific audience than you think it is. It's a really good anecdote for, I think, for every genre, really.
Yeah. The game that I worked on that I mentioned with the price point issue was a real-time strategy game, and if you've ever worked on a real-time strategy game or even like dug into that audience, you know they're very picky.
Awesome.
I mean,
so was that you said you had? a final thing to say, Michael?
Yeah. I just an anecdote slash a request. You know, I am working on something that I think will have an audience, but I am like as it's kind of become the theme, trying to figure out like who is the actual audience. Um, but basically, to be quick, I'm working on a dev tool. So if anybody would be interested in, I guess I don't, I guess that's not technically playtesting, but if anybody
Well,
would be interested in more,
well, I have an idea, Michael, and I got to go. Tony has and all of us to some sense have been talking about coming up with a quote unquote playtesting day where we say, hey, today we're going to play test Michael's new project. And I think that's something we should try out, and maybe we'll use yours as the initial test.
yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I have some games and I also have some tools that I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
So, you
I think
know,
it applies both
feedback
ways,
would
as
be
long as it's
useful.
interesting to our audience here. Yeah.
Yeah, feedback would be useful for both. But yeah, I mean, basically, I did actually post about it in the where did I put it? Give me a second. Let me
By the
look.
way, I just want to say hi to we just got Just Victor on here, and we're actually closing, but
Yeah.
there will be a recording of today's session, thanks to Tony, and he'll give us a link, and I believe he puts that in the monthly topic of the month, and maybe other places, so we can get a recap and you can see what we talked about. I gotta go, so I'm not saying you guys have to stop talking, but thank you so much for showing up today, and we do this the first Monday of every month. Invite your friends, and let's keep it going. This was great. Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Thank you.